transparency and fairness, and to make it known to the general public that some Ghanaians are not interested in truth and justice, but are only focused on fomenting trouble and succumbing to cheap tricks and games to help unscrupulous business people gain contracts through the influence, perhaps, of some unethical public officials who would only seek their selfish interests and not the public good. You're all aware, on the 15th of May 2020, Friday, we issued a press release in which we gave you the accounts of everything involving the so-called LCB contract that does not exist between them and the Minister of Aviation or its agencies. I'm very grateful to you on that, and I wish to commend the media houses for giving the wide publicity that it got. What I do wish to add, and to stress for that matter, the LCB has no contract with us. There's nothing legally binding with us to engage LCB to do any disinfection or fumigation or any cleansing of any sort in any of the airports in the country or any of their facilities. However, I state again that we're open to engage any entity, including LCB, if they have any such proposals that they wish to help us to improve on the services we deliver to Ghanaians and travelers. In that case, to ensure that we're able to contain the spread of the COVID-19 flowing from what the President has ordered us to do. LCB did have a proposal with us, but the proposal was not accepted by the governing board of the Ghana Airport Company because of its cost, also because of the implications of the cost to travelers. As you know, aviation does not work alone as a Ghanaian entity. We work with the international organizations such as the IATA and ICAO. And so we cannot just take a cost and put it on the ticket and charge travelers for that. And I think this is a very simple reason why the airport company board did not accept the proposal. You have to pardon me, this thing is difficult to manage. We shared again with the general public of the LCB situation and made it clear that there's nothing binding with us. But what the agents of this cheap, malicious and unacceptable conduct have sought to do now is to shift their focus from the validity of the contract, which does not exist, to issues bordering on the safety of Ghanaians and other things that sadly fly in the face of the order of business within public sector management practices. Ladies and gentlemen, might I add that indeed the safety and security has always been our priority in this sector, and it is a result of our excellent performance on these issues that we rank the highest in Africa in 2019. It is therefore not these two gentlemen who will tell us what to do in this regard. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that indeed I was the only person who drew the attention of the Ghana Airport Company to the need to ensure that airport facilities are cleansed. The buildings, including the floors, and also the cargo. These were all shared in anticipation of our plans to fly in the near future. So these were planning on before even LCB came around to talk about the contract that does not exist. I wish to state here at this stage that as we speak, domestic flights have resumed operations and all the COVID-19 protocols are being observed. Let me add also that IATA has commended Ghana's aviation sector for these effective measures and successful operations. In fact, IATA has since adopted Ghana's standards for use in other countries. Of the African countries which closed down domestic flights due to COVID-19, Ghana is the first to restart operations. This again attests to Ghana's leadership and successes in the aviation sector within the African countries. Thus, it's important for me to state that when the lockdown came and the domestic flights stopped alongside the closure of the borders, of all the African countries that operate airlines, only 6 continue to fly. But out of all those who closed down, only Ghana has started flying again. And we've been able to do this successfully to the admiration of IATA, because we went through the protocols handed down by the Presidential Task Force and made sure that all that has to be done, measuring up to WHO standards, were all applied on all the airports, Kotoka International Airport, Kumasi, Tamale, Takoradi. And I'm sure you're all aware of the disinfection that took place throughout the whole country one day. This was the speed with which we wanted to do quickly to make sure that we are ready to fly again. Ladies and gentlemen, we made the matter very clear in terms of the LCB contract. Now we are at a loss as to why Mr. David Kwajo Amoateng and Nana Poku, who are the Greater Accra Regional Branch Chairman and the General Secretary of the Ghana Union of Trade Association, GUTA, respectively, will still indulge in what they are doing, if not perhaps because they are being influenced by considerations best known to themselves. While we acknowledge UTV in particular for engaging Mr. Martin squarely on questions he fumbled over, we also wish to thank other media houses for being circumspect about the motives behind the actions of the two gentlemen. We further wish to call upon the media to further engage them on outstanding questions regarding this matter. In the interest of fair play, we now wish to appeal to you, members of the media, to help us get to the bottom of this matter by seeking to know from Mr. Amoateng and Nana Poku the following. The questions are the following. Who truly is behind them? Who is sponsoring them on this wrong track to do such dirty work for them? And why are the faceless and cowardly sponsors hiding behind the two GUTA members? The ministry is clearly of the view that the two gentlemen should be channeling their time and efforts into more productive ventures in the interest of GUTA, which needs our support as a nation, considering the vital role they play in our national economy. So we all support GUTA, and we all want to make sure they're doing a very good job for us. But what the two gentlemen are doing, we don't think is consistent with what GUTA is out to do. We believe strongly that they are being sponsored by people to cause disaffection within the sector for no reason at all. Number two, if indeed it is the case that Mr. Amoateng and Nana Poku are interested in the health and safety of the traveling public, have they, since the commencement of flights on 1st May 2020, traveled either to Kumasi or Tamale to assess whether the airports are clean and that the presidential protocols are being followed? I've flown a few times. I don't think I've seen any of them flying. I don't know if any of you have seen them fly, but I begin to suspect that they may not have flown, and checked out the airport to see whether measures are put in place to make sure that things are effective by way of the protocols that we are adopting from the president's point of view. If indeed these two gentlemen are truly interested in the right thing being done, have they ever visited the ministry of or its agencies to engage the minister, the managing director of Ghana Airport Company, or any of our officials to offer suggestions or complain about any wrongdoing before they took to media houses to speak out such language and accusations? This is very simple and straightforward. You are Ghanaian. You have every right as any other Ghanaian. You hear something is going on in the aviation sector that's not right. Our doors are open. Have you written to us? Have you come to us to ask questions as to why certain things are not being done well? Or to offer suggestions on what you should do to improve what we're working on? I've never seen any of these two gentlemen here, and I don't think they've gone to the airport company to offer those suggestions, especially Mr. Amoateng and Nana Poku. All they have done is to go to media houses and make a lot of noise on what is not right, what they're claiming is improper, which is not the case. Is it the case that Mr. Amoateng and Mr. Poku are now the spokesperson of the Ministry of Transport and Health, or that they know better than the public relations officers of those two ministries? Is their behavior not tantamount to an insult and undermining of the two ministries? In other words, we have got a Minister of Trade, a Minister of Transport, Minister of Health, and of course Minister of Aviation. For Minister of Transport and Minister of Health, they have their public relations directories. We expect that if we did anything wrong against what the two ministers may have put before government, it's their duty to confront us on that, to write us and engage us in whatever way that they need to engage us for us to do the right thing. They have not spoken up till now. Yet Mr. Martin and Nana Poku are out there claiming to be the defenders of what should be the bona fide, I don't know how to put this in this case, let me say the right of the Minister of Transport and Minister of Health. But they have not done that. They keep talking like they are PROs for those ministries. I think this is an insult to the Minister of Transport and Minister of Health. It's almost as if they are not doing their jobs, and Mr. Martin and Nana Poku are the ones who are doing the work for them. If the matter being addressed by Mr. Martin and Nana Poku is one which the two ministers are centrally involved, and if the Minister for Aviation is indeed usurping their powers, why have the two ministers not made any comments or come out publicly to engage the Minister of Aviation or Ghana Airport Company on that matter? Do those two persons think they know better than the officials of the Minister of Transport and Minister of Health? Why has LCB not come out to contest the matter of a legitimate contract having been taken away from them? The central issue that's brought this whole matter is that we are accused of diverting the contract from LCB to another party. Why has LCB not come out to talk about it, to give us evidence of the contract that they've signed with the Minister of Aviation or its agency that's binding, and that they have every right as a Ghanaian entity to really lay claim on that contract? They have not come out to say that and to show us that evidence. And I think it's about time for them to come out and do something. Otherwise, we would like to think that they are perhaps one of those agencies sponsoring these two gentlemen to do what they're doing. Even though I admit we have no evidence of that, we can only infer that they may be the ones behind it. Let me also add, by raising this question, can Mr. Martin and Nana Poku tell us under what circumstances two ministries can enter into a contract with a third party when implementation is expected to be facilitated by an agency under another ministry, and where this involves enormous cost implications for the implementing agency and levies exacted on clients of that agency? Let me make it simply. Martin and Nana Poku should explain to us why two ministers should enter into a contract and then hand that contract over to an agency under another ministry and tell them they should implement it when there are cost implications. Even more serious is that when there are levies to be exacted on the passengers, in this case, that airport company and civil aviation authority, and of course the ministry will have to send to IATA or ACAO and get the approval. How can you say the Minister of Health, Minister of Transport, and sign contracts and bring them to us for us to implement, when these two international agencies, IATA and ACAO, would have to go through the process to see whether we should include that in the cost of the tickets that the passengers buy to be able to fly? I think Mr. Martin and Mr. Poku have the right to tell us why they think that should be the case. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, let us bring to your attention that aviation sector personnel have collaborated well with port health officials, and in some cases even given them assistance to do their work more effectively. So it's not for the two gentlemen to tell us that we are not doing well with port health. Indeed, we've worked very well with them and not had a problem at all. The press is an integral part of the effort to advance the cause of our country's development, and we truly value the relationship we have built over the years. People like Mr. Martin and Poku should not be allowed to use the platform of the media to serve their parochial interests. I thank you very much.